Marvel's Avengers game is back in the news and for all the wrong reasons. And before we hop into this fully, we are not doing this to cause a panic or act like you shouldn't play this game anymore.
I was doing this to cause a panic.
Shh, don't tell them. But I think it's worth saying that they did fix this issue, supposedly. Unless it pops up again for somebody, it has now been patched.
I don't know if I believe that.
It's kind of worrisome. But Marvel's Avengers, the game, shown up again in the news cycle, not because of new content, not because people are excited for Spider-Man or Black Panther or any of that, but because...
It leaks your nudes.
Not your nudes. Maybe eventually that'll happen. It leaks your IP address, or at least it did for a little while to a lot of players. This bug was appearing randomly, but it was actually most prevalent on the PlayStation 5. I didn't see examples of it on other consoles. Maybe there were some on PS4 or something, but essentially what would happen is that your IP address would appear on screen in this multiplayer game, and it would just be popping up, and it would bounce around the screen. Kind of like if you've ever seen a developer build of a video game, sometimes they have watermarks and stuff like that on the screen in order to identify whose build it is, if there's like a QA tester or a developer or whatever working on that certain thing. It was like that, where it would bounce around the screen showing your IP address. Now, again, this has been fixed since then, but Jill and I were talking about this, and one of the reasons this is so troubling is because of what it actually could show. Now,
yeah, they're essentially doxing you, pretty much.
In a way, they're like generally doxing you because it can show essentially what city you live in.
Yeah.
A lot of streamers want to keep that private. And the thing is, this most affected streamers and screenshotters and those people. If you were just playing online, the one good piece of news is if I was just playing online by myself, or I played online and I joined someone, they couldn't see it. But if they saw, like if I was streaming or something, and this glitch happened, they could see my exact IP address.
And then a bunch of people would know you lived in Schmitzelberg, Schmitzer, Schmebe.
Is that a new state you made up?
Yes.
I honestly, if Hawaii and Alaska can make the union, that can too.
Schmitzer, Mimi?
The thing with the IP address too, and by the way, this was part of Kotaku actually broke down a good reason why IP address is like that sort of sharing thing without consent.
It's a huge violation of privacy.
Yeah, the reason why it is not just because someone can figure out where what house you're in. It's not really that. I'm sure there's someone out there who could take your ISP address and then hack into your internet service provider, or your IP address, and hack into your internet service provider and figure out exactly where you live or something. But that's the 1% of people who actually hack, not, or 1% of 1%, not anyone normal. But the problem is that the other things that can happen with this, because yes, it does show your approximate city, which a lot of streamers want to avoid. They don't want something like that happen. But also, if someone gets your IP address, they can essentially use it, because they can sort of use a proxy. There's a way to do this, which I don't want to teach anybody. But you can use this IP address to make it look like criminal activity came from your network.
Wait, really?
Yeah, so if I had
if
I had Ninja's IP address and I was like, I don't like Ninja, I'm gonna look up some images of children. I could do something crazy like that. Or I'm gonna order some drugs.
Or I'm gonna look up how to make a boom
stick.
Yes.
Yeah, something like that. I could do that. That's kind of why it's scary. And again, not everyone knows how to do that, obviously, but it's just something you don't want to share.
Well, the thing is, there are so many people on the internet that, a majority of the people in the world are on the internet, and there's a good select few people in this world who have internet access that shouldn't, and probably have a little bit of something going on in their head, and very well could have the motivation to do these things. I mean, there's crazy people who get arrested every day for doing crazy things, like booming a tower, or,
Or two,
and,
Yeah, no, there's crazy people who get arrested all the time. I mean, we live, in Minnesota, obviously, and there are banks here that get robbed all the time. And it's a pretty low crime rate area, actually, our city, but we live in a decent state. And the thing is, there's still criminal activity, so that's kind of a problem too. And also, by the way, you could get the DDoS, the denial of service attacks, sent against you, which can essentially ruin your network for a while. Now, you don't have to be a hacker, like, I'm a trained hacker, I work for the CIA. You don't have to be that guy to do this. What you do is you just go to a website, there's several actually, and you pay them, and they will send a DDoS attack to an IP address. Yeah. So essentially that makes it so their internet doesn't work until they decide, this isn't worth my money or time anymore.
That's really stupid.
Yeah, so again, if I didn't like PewDiePie or Ninja or something, and they were streaming this and their IP address showed up, I could just be like, oh, I'm going to just do a DDoS on them. And I mean, unless they were running like proxies and stuff like that, which a lot of people don't bother to do. Yeah, I've ruined their internet connection now for probably a few days. Mm-hmm. And that's only if I did it. Like just me, one person. Let's say it was someone millions of people were watching. And, you know, there's these weird people who hate watch streamers and content creators and stuff. I don't get it. We even get them on this channel. It's like people who... They don't realize that the engagement helps the creator, but they're just angry.
Yeah, and they like being hateful.
Yeah, and so those people, like, very easily, if you're someone big, especially like Markiplier, Ninja, PewDiePie, or even somebody in a couple 100,000, just think you have 5 people watching you that hate you enough to do that. Yeah. Maybe they've taken your internet down for a week.
It's very well possible. And also there's this little thing that it seems uncommon, but it actually happens to a lot of people. There's stalkers who exist, and you know, something like that, if you had an online stalker, that could help them do bad things.
Especially imagine if you were like a girl. Like,
yeah, I'm not like I'm sure everyone knows who Tana Mojo is. She used to do a bunch of in the beginning of her channel career, she used to do a lot of videos about how she was being stalked by someone, and I don't know if it was a man, I think it was, he would do a lot of weird stuff to her and things like that, like hacking her phone and things like that, and it was really weird and scary.
Oh, like trying to log into her accounts and stuff like that. And so that, by the way, not to cut you off, that's the other thing too that's worth mentioning. A lot of people call that hacking. Mm-hmm. That's not hacking. Real hacking is like, I know computer code and I know like back doors into your network and I can do stuff to you. A lot of hacking that actually happens though is people get these little pieces of personal information, you know, one at a time. Like, they figure out your full name, and then they figure out your IP address, and then they figure out the city you're in, and then they figure out this. Mm-hmm. And what you're saying is that each one of those pieces, even for these amateur people who call themselves hackers that aren't really, they can figure out where you are and do something to you like that.
And that's how a lot of, especially pretty girls, about anyone, that get a lot of stalkers and people who could try to hurt you, and eventually, you know, you don't know who that person could be and why they're stalking you. They could want to kidnap you and, you know,
do whatever
eliminate you.
Yeah, well, the thing too is, again, can happen to anybody, but especially in the age of like, you know, girl streamers, yeah. I will say, where we've seen it on Twitch lately with the hot tub meta. Mm-hmm. You can dislike these people as much as you want, but it's way too easy with something like your IP address floating around to figure out where someone like that is and do something to them. Mm-hmm. There have even been like horror stories of girls who have like an OnlyFans, and then someone figures out where they live. And tries to assault them like that. Again, people are going to have their own opinions on all that stuff. I know there's always the people who are like, well, if you don't want that kind of attention, then don't draw it to yourself and stuff. But it's like, well, you're not consenting to be attacked by somebody, no matter what you're... Even if you're like an orange YouTube celebrity, like you're streaming something, you're not consenting to someone stalking you and showing up at your house and hurting you.
And the thing is, a lot of people like us, we don't put a ton of our information online. Like, we try to be safe with it and not share a ton of things, like our full names or our address and stuff like that.
I'll share like tons of personal stuff about my life and what I'm doing and what I'm going through and making, and, you know, even jobs I've had and all that. It's just the only things I don't really want to talk about are like, here's my address.
Yeah.
Because I don't want people showing up at our house.
So like, there's a whole privacy thing there where like, if you're a girl on OnlyFans and you've made the choice to not put that out there, she shouldn't, you know, be not allowed to use the internet just because somebody could possibly hack her and find all those
or
things.
A streamer or any of these people. And that's the thing. This is a massive invasion of privacy. I think we spent most of the video talking about that and why it's so stupid and ridiculous. Mm-hmm. This is an oversight that never should happen. Mm-hmm. And what really frustrates me...
It's really dangerous.
It really frustrates me so much that this is Crystal Dynamics.
Yeah. Crystal
Dynamics, you know...
A huge company.
Tomb Raider. Mm-hmm. Like... The reboots, Tomb Raider, they should know better than this. Like, this is... Crystal Dynamics is a good company. And Square above them, Square Enix, is a good company. again, has it been fixed since then? Sure, for now, but this came out of nowhere. It's not like they planned this. This sort of stuff is unacceptable in the digital age.
It's not like it couldn't come back again, or also there are also things that I don't know a whole ton about game stuff, but they could have those IP addresses accidentally stuck in some files that somebody could go through and find eventually, too.
Well, they have that all the time with data breaches where, like, a website will get basically backdoored or phished or whatever, and then your password will just be out there. And if you use that password, like, let's say Yahoo gets hacked. Well, now I use, like, let's just say hypothetically, because I don't, but let's say I used 1Password for a lot of things. Like, I used it for Yahoo, Xbox, and to log into my credit card company. Well, now they have that for all three. So if somebody figures out what credit card company I have, they're one step closer to getting into my account. Something like that. That's the problem with each of these building blocks, is that as they get out there, on its own, it's one thing. If you're just a normal average person, does it really matter that much if some random person figures out what town you live in? No. But, you know, especially for streamers and people like this, and even just people where, like, you know, there have been instances. Actually, there was a crime in the last few years where, like, somebody swatted someone's house over Call of Duty, stuff like that. Like, this stuff happens.
I think it's also a big deal too if you're like a kid just playing Avengers. Like, imagine you're a little boy, 12 years old, probably got this game for Christmas,
and maybe you're streaming because you watch people like Ninja and all these guys stream, and you think it's cool.
And then somebody who's watching is an older person who decides that they want to figure out where you live and no touch you.
Or even mess with you.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's the other thing, too, is, like, even if it's just someone screwing with you, because, like, everybody's experienced that where you're younger maybe, and you play an online game, and someone says, like, I know where you live.
It's messed up.
People say that stuff to scare people, and it's not real, but it is messed up.
Yeah.
And I don't think that those people should have, like, you shouldn't have to worry about that just by logging into a game online.
No.
Or by streaming or taking a screenshot. It showed up in those.
Kids should not be needing to worry about those things. And that, I don't know, just the whole leak thing should not have happened. It should have been extremely unacceptable.
Oh, yeah, and especially, Dad, to your point, this is a game I would say directed at kids and teenagers.
Yeah, pretty much. It is directed at kids and teenagers. That's the big database that mostly plays it still.
Yeah, I mean, that's the demographic they're going for, and I think that there are adult players, and there's people like me who occasionally play it to talk about it, and who want it to be better. I actively want this game to be very good. You know, I do. I gain nothing by a game with characters I enjoy being lackluster. Yeah. I don't like get off to that. I want it to be a fun experience. I love these characters. So to me, to see this, it's very frustrating. It's an unacceptable breach of privacy,
especially for a game that's like targeted at younger people too.
Oh yeah, and people have left companies for less in terms of people who are fans of companies. Like back when the PlayStation got hacked and a lot of personal information got out, they lost thousands of customers. Wow. You know, and that's the thing. Like now they've replaced them since then, and I highly doubt they care because it was the PS3. But, you know, there were tons of people, like, I remember I was a kid during this time, and there were tons of people going into, like, my local GameStop and stuff and, like, trading in their PS3s because they didn't trust it, or their dad would bring them in and they'd trade in the PS3 and they'd buy them an Xbox 360 because they would say, well, that's just not acceptable and that's not something we want to worry about.
Yeah, and there's a lot of superstitious parents who, if they found out about this, they'd be like, okay, Jimmy, you're not going to play this game anymore. I'm going to get you Marvel's Avengers Lego.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he would be like, you're done playing this. These people are trying to keep their kids safe. People want to feel safe when they play your game, and they don't want to have to worry about this. And I think that this happening, you can't really put it back in the box once stuff like this happens. This will forever be associated with this game.
Yeah.
This happening, and I think too it'll forever be a fear now for a lot of people when they log to online games, like, other than this, that maybe a glitch like this will happen. Who's to say, like, that the next Call of Duty or the next Dead by Daylight patch or the next Halo patch or something, none of them have done this, but who's to say that there might not be a mistake, and that happens. And that's kind of scary to feel like you could have your personal data breached just playing a game for fun on the internet. That's it.
The other issue is when your data is breached, it's on the internet forever. A lot of times.
Yes.
There's no way of getting rid of it. And that's one of the worst parts is, like, if you wanted to get another IP address, you'd have to go buy another
you'd have to you'd basically have to go through your ISP and do that. You could essentially use a static IP address. Essentially, there's a way to change your IP address, and you can actually do that every day. Our router does it every single day.
Oh, wow.
So, like, our IP address changes every day. But the thing is, it doesn't change in term, like, they would still have that information, right? So I actually went and I did a test on this earlier because our IP address today is different than it was a week ago, like the one that's public. And essentially what I did was I just saw, well, can it see exactly where we live? And it can determine it down to the city.
Yeah.
And I tested it actually a few months ago when we had changed internet to just see before, when it was a different address, can it do that? And it shows the exact same area. So what I'm saying is it doesn't matter that your IP address changes. Like, it would matter in terms of the criminal activity spoofing. But in terms of figuring out what your city or that personal information, it doesn't even matter. Once that's out there, that's out there. They just know that, Daddy Pussy King 69
he lives in Schmittsburg.
Lives in Schmittsburg, yeah. So they just know that now. I don't know. I don't have much more to add other than I don't think that gamers should have to worry about logging into a game, their personal information just being leaked like that. The game almost in a way doxing part of your personal information. It's creepy, it's scary.
It's weird.
The more we see this stuff, the less I want to play games like this.
Yeah, and at this point we are kind of rambling a little bit, but it's true. A lot of these online games, there's just too much going on with them. You have to update them like every single day, and then there's a bunch of jerks who play them, and then sometimes
they dox you.
Yeah, they dox you, and sometimes you can meet people on there who are really mean and scary and try to hurt you or something.
Yeah, I know. You log into Avengers and it's like, sorry, little Jimmy, you thought you were hitting level 69, but a trained army sniper is on his way to your house and city. It's like you're playing with Jigsaw, and you're like, oh man, I wanted to play as Iron Man. I mean, if you're a kid, that's all you care about. But, I don't know. In conclusion, yes, we are rambling. It's just scary and creepy and weird. I hope to never see this again, but I do think that this will be associated with this game. At least in my head, it will be. This is not something that should happen ever.
And I hope Fortnite doesn't leak our IP address anytime soon, because I love that game.
Because you still love Fortnite. Let us know what you think in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more content. We appreciate you very much hanging out with us. Do you think that stuff like this is growing pains with online gaming? I know online gaming has been around for a while, but do you think this is something that eventually this will never happen again because, developers are getting more used to these online games? Do you think that this was an oversight and it's like, that's really bad, but you can trust them again? Do you think this shakes your trust in this company or in these types of games? I want to know.
I think as long as online games are around, things like this are going to be able to happen. Mistakes are always going to happen. There's always going to be somebody who knows how to break into the system and release that sort of stuff. As humans, we're always going to make mistakes, and unless they start making robots build these games and such, when everything's just going to lack creativity and every game's going to be the exact same.
Well, we're already there with humans. No, I don't know. Just, I'm interested to hear, because this does kind of shake my faith in a lot of these games and make me a little more concerned about streaming even. But I'm interested to hear their thoughts. So let us know what you think in the comments down below. Jill, you got anything else before we say goodbye, or you want to say goodbye?
Well, I wanted to tell you guys that I know all of your IP addresses, and if you don't hit that subscribe button, I'm going to use them.
Oh my. Uh-oh. Every single person. We got Marvel's Avengers the Human here.
Yep.
Let us know what you think down below. Have a fantastic day, and as always, everyone, stay shway. For legal purposes, we were joking about leaking your IP address to everyone around. Viewer discretion is advised.